as you see from the title, and I'm sure that's what drew you here, we basically live in a giant death cult. Now, what does that mean? First of all, why am I saying death cult like that? I think cult in this sense is more like this group understanding of something. It's just society. Society itself is the cult, right? So you see like people following trends and all that stuff. That's like a cult following. I think society at large is a death cult. Now, you're saying, so following death, what do you mean by that? I mean it almost quite literally. If your life is life, what you're here to do, your purpose, and death is the avoidance of that. Death in this video is the avoidance of life. It is the opposite. Again, we're not diving into what is beyond, what is the afterlife. This isn't a spiritual conversation in that way. We're not speaking about theological ideas or different spiritual beliefs and systems of belief. Here it is just life, which is this life we're living, our purpose, and who we are, and the legacy that we're trying to leave, and the avoidance of that. The avoidance of that legacy, the avoidance of our life, which is basically the same as death. So what do I mean by this? I mean that we've built this society. We have built this culture, especially in the Western world, of distraction. Distracting ourselves from pain, distracting ourselves from heartache, distracting ourselves from our own life because of a lack of finding purpose, or maybe even just a lack of self-trust or a lack of self-worth, or just feeling like we're lost or we're stuck or we're not going to amount to anything. So what's the point? It's this kind of nihilistic idea of what life is now. And I think a lot of this is us just really not understanding the point or understanding our purpose. And I think I'm concerned that it's just going to increase and be worse. So with so much of us not looking at who we are, at our wants, at our desires, at what we need, at what we are feeling like we are missing in our life, we instead choose to numb ourselves to that instead of seek or search or try or practice or work towards something. Again, I think it's different for so many of us, but I think at the basis of it, the backbone of this lifestyle that we have adopted in Western society is that we spend more time following trends or other people, celebrity gossip, the news, than we do our own life. As I said in my escapism video, I think a lot of us are avoiding our responsibility for our own selves, for our own lives. And I think one way we do that is through existing online, being chronically online, focusing all of our energy and efforts on things that are beyond us and outside of us, so that we don't have to actually look at the responsibility that we have to live our own lives and of our own actions and of our own experience. So instead, we're distracting ourselves from things like pain or heartache, when maybe a better call would be to dive into that, to understand that, and to maybe integrate some insights or wisdom so that we can actually use that to build more of our purpose or more of a legacy in this life. And I'm concerned that a lot of us are distracting ourselves from our purpose and from our life so that we don't ever have to accomplish it. As I think it's a lot easier to go through life not accomplishing our purpose and not leaving a legacy than it is to leave one that might be lacking or might appear bad or rough. These are like generational curses that we are bringing. We don't want to give more of those to our family. But I think in this, we avoid responsibility of it, because the responsibility of it is a lot more scary than the truth that it's going to happen. And I think this avoidance of taking ownership of our own stuff, it comes from, and it sounds funny, and this is just a philosophical thought. I can be wrong. I am definitely open to just discussion on it. But what if this is a really big, not just fear of our purpose, but what if it's a fear of death itself? What if we are so scared to die after working so hard and trying so hard and failing, This fear of failure is so great that we don't want to take this failure to our death, right? But we don't believe that we can achieve anything else. I wonder if this is a way that we are trying to ease this burden of taking responsibility and leaving a great legacy or a greater world for future generations. I think a lot of us give up instead of actually being present in our life. So this distraction, this escapism, and just really rejecting ownership for our own life and not even living our own life, taking on the ideas of other people or the trends, following trends, getting the next best thing, just keeping up with the Joneses. All of this feels like it is a way for us to avoid taking ownership, taking responsibility, and to avoid maybe the suffering that we're feeling on such a deep level. And I'm wondering if this suffering is because of this avoidance of the way that we receive wisdom. And oftentimes this is through pain and through experience. And if we're avoiding the experience of our life, if we're avoiding life, then it is almost like we are worshiping death. It is almost like we have created a life of death. We don't want to look at life. We don't want to see life. We don't want more babies to be born. We don't want to look towards the future and how frightening that could be, because if we do that, we have to take a look at our own actions and how those are affecting and impacting the world. And we are so scared to do that. Whether it be changing our eating habits or changing our purchasing strategy, whether it be avoiding some groups, boycotting things, or really caring for our environment, doing these things that make an impact in caring for our planet, caring for future generations. We don't want to take ownership for that. We don't want to be a part in transforming life, so we're just ready to die. On such a deep level, it feels like we are just preparing for death from the time we're born now. We're preparing to understand that life is not worth living. We're preparing to understand that life is too hard, too difficult. We aren't giving our children that will literally be in charge of the world. We're not giving them the resources and tools they need. We're sticking them in front of an iPad. We're sticking them in front of a TV. We are avoiding life, and we are teaching them to do the same. And it breaks my heart, because where are we headed? This giant cult of death, of distraction, of this rigid order that is actually not even based off of truth, but rather based on avoidance and drama and fear. What if we actually chose to be in our life, to interact with our life? When we feel a desire to understand that tug, even in the face of fear, to really witness that this is all a part of life. This suffering, it's coming mostly from your avoidance. We don't need to avoid the suffering, because the fact is that if you are going to live life, living life to the fullest means through the heartbreak, through the pain. This is how we learn, through experience. This is how we receive wisdom, and that is how we receive the wisdom we need to change not just our lives, but the lives of our future children, future generations, the planet, taking care of the environment, of nature, and leaving a legacy that is so worthy of not just being remembered after death, but being remembered in life. So many people are so ready to believe that they are incapable, that they don't matter, that they can't make an impact or a dent in the world. But we are living in a society where every single person is training themselves and each other that's true. And we're training our children to believe that's true. And we're teaching ourselves every day that on a fundamental level, we are incapable of living a good life, a fulfilling life, an impactful life. And I am just here to question that. What if we are just afraid to live life? We don't need to worship death to the point where we are afraid to even exist. This is not the point. You're right. And if you're thinking this way and you're distracting yourself from the pain instead of feeling it and moving through it and learning from it, if you're distracting yourself and complaining and feeling this nihilistic, pessimistic attitude that we aren't here for a reason, that we can't do anything, that there's no point, that there's so much suffering, then you are a part of this cult that is never going to allow life to breathe through this world. And I just have to question that. In this video, I have to question that. Is it true that you can't make an impact? Or are you just not willing so that on your deathbed, it'll be easier to just go? And I can see multiple perspectives on this. Maybe it's not that at all. Maybe it's something else for you. Maybe this is a conversation that has maybe multiple perspectives I've never even had the opportunity to think of. And so I am asking you to respond, not with negativity, with whatever really is spurred in you. What are you feeling from this? What does this bring up in you? I am the conversation starter. I am trying to start a conversation on things that I think are important, and I want you to do the same. You have no idea how much of an impact your words can make on somebody. You have no idea how much of a light you can be in shadows that you aren't even aware are present for people. And I just really hope that I can make us think about this in a different way, because if all of us choose to avoid life, then I'm not sure what kind of legacy we're leaving for future generations. And I'm not sure if we're giving them the tools or resources that they need to accomplish this. And I think we're harming not just our children, but the environment. And we're definitely harming ourselves with the actions and the choices that we're making every day. And I think it's time to stop avoiding the pain. I think it's time to stop moving away from everything that's uncomfortable, because this is where we grow. This is how we learn. You can't receive wisdom just by doing nothing. It's not wisdom to research information. It is not wisdom to learn something from a video. It is not wisdom to learn something on Google and now that makes you a professional or that makes you a master. The truth is that wisdom comes through understanding of information, and this understanding usually comes through personal experience, whether that be an internal experience or an external experience. A life experience is usually where this comes from, and it could be in the simplest moments. And we cannot do that if we're avoiding our life, if we're not interacting with our life, if we're not interacting with people in our life, if we're not being present with our children that we're bringing up in this world, if we're not being present with our own feelings, whether it be desires and positive emotions, or the things that scare us, or the things that really freak us out. What is important is that we live, and we are not here to die. We are here to live. There would truly be no point if our entire purpose was to live long enough to die. But we are actually given a bigger, deeper purpose. And that is to live. To live so that others can live. To live so that future generations can live. So that the planet can live. Because life is beautiful. I hope you've enjoyed this. And I certainly have been thinking so much about it lately. Life is not always comfy and it's not always fun. You hear everyone say it's not always sunshine and rainbows with everything. True. It's not. But I'm not sure why it has to be. I don't think that was ever a part of the plan. I don't think that we even would have the opportunity to feel anything if it wasn't for the fact that we are meant to. And these feelings are important. And these ideas and concepts that come through our brains are important. And keeping all of that inside helps no one. And avoiding philosophy because people say it's useless and the world works a certain way is just not how I'm meant to live my life. Join me. Please talk to me. Literally comment. I would be fascinated if you have a completely different idea on this, or you want to go into depth on other things, like other points or other topics that this makes you think of, then I am so open to that. And I would be so excited and blessed to experience that. Thank you for being here. I hope you have a beautiful day. I love you.